I mean, one of the things that I Love Boosters is about is the way that one's status as a worker, one's place in the global economic system supersedes borders.
Definitely. I've always like said whenever we have our Q&As and stuff and they're like, oh, like the fashion and the fun, like whatever. I'm always like, it's a film about global class solidarity and anti-capitalism.
Poppy Liu, welcome to Bullseye. I'm so delighted to have you on the program.
Thanks, Jesse. It's an honor to be here.
I get the feeling that you are somebody who was excited to be in I Love Boosters for like theory reasons as well as artistic reasons.
Are you kidding me? I was so excited to be on it just like from like nerdy, I guess, theory reasons that when I first met Boots over Zoom after I read the script, and it was like the Zoom was supposed to be us talking about the character and like the story prior to me taping for it. And we just got so like nerded out about like the sci-fi of the world and the character and how like she's like from China and just like, you know, garment workers and all this stuff. Like I like forgot that I was trying to get the role. And so I like was even like suggesting actors for him. Or I was like, oh my God, wait, have you seen so-and-so? Like I was like, I feel like, ooh, like she really gives off the vibe of this character. And then I was like, wait, Right. I'm trying to get the role. You know, but I feel like I came in already with the mentality of being like a fanboy of it, where I was like, sick, can't wait for this new Boots Riley movie for me to go watch and then go into the subreddits and, you know, troll around about.
There's not a lot of movies that are this ridiculous and this bananas that also just have a lot of discussion of dialectical matters.
100%. I told him candidly, only this last week when I watched it at the Bay Area premiere, that like I finally understood the science of it. I feel like each time I've watched it or like reread the script or like filmed it, I guess, like a new piece of the science comes in. But like last week was when I first finally locked in, which is great. It's great for like a piece of art to like grow with your mind over time. I couldn't have absorbed all of it in the beginning. There's too much to absorb.
So in I Love Boosters, it's about a crew of boosters, people who shoplift to sell what they shoplift, liberate what they shoplift.
Yeah.
And your character is initially not one of them.
No.
She's a worker in China who gets on a sort of parallel hustle.
Yes.
You yourself are both from the United States and from China. You grew up largely here, but partly in China for your teenage years. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to make your life here?
Well, so I was born in China in Xi'an, but then we immigrated to Minnesota when I was 2. And then we lived in Minnesota from when I was 2 to up until when I was 14. And then we went back to China to Shanghai. I went to like international school there. But I feel like the 2 to 14 time period is very foundational in terms of, I think, your sense of like self. And so I am kind of a hick at the end of the day. You know, it's like you can't international school the hick out of me.
Like the Minnesota hick?
Yeah.
The land of 1,000 lakes?
100%. You know, like, and then I was back in China then, but that was kind of like a double, triple culture shock of being back in China, but I'm at an American school, very a la like Exo Kitty vibes. It's actually not that far off. And then like all my classmates had been like living internationally their whole lives, or like were the kids of like the wealthiest family in South Korea, or like, you know, like were the kids of French diplomats or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I just hung out at the skate park for most of like middle school, you know, and like went to go see like Slater Kinney play in Minneapolis. And that was awesome. And so I can't redo what those years were. And they're just fundamentally part of my like chemical makeup now.
How many of the kids at your high school were born and raised in Shanghai or in China? How many of them were, you know, from across the world? How many of them were American?
I would say the vast majority were like had lived in 4 to 5 countries by the time they were in high school. Like it was like very typical. I think my like high school boyfriend at the time was like, he was like born in upstate New York, but like his family's Indian. They had like moved to like, I think like Mumbai to like Singapore to like Tokyo, and just now we're like in Shanghai finally. So I was the outlier, the one that like came from Minnesota. Everyone's like, oh my God, what's that? And someone told me when I was 14 that I had a Minnesotan accent. And I was like, no. So yeah, that's, I think even, even in my 20s, it's like I spent most of my 20s then like in New York City and, like in Shanghai too, like even that, no amount of years in like a very chic metropolitan city can undo what Minnesota did to me, it is just part of who I am.
I feel like international school or American school in a foreign country is a scene for people who are either going to like go into international finance or crash a Ferrari when they're 17.
Definitely. Oh, there was a whole thing where like, I think, because also there's like not really a strict age for like drinking or clubbing or anything. So we would just like go clubbing every weekend. And I used to like sleep over at one of my first friends that was there. I think she probably was one of the people that lived in Shanghai the longest. And we kind of had this running joke that we were like, maybe your dad's in the triads or something. Like, what does he do? You have this like giant mansion with like 5 live-in maids. Like, it's like this huge house. I would sleep over at her house every weekend, and then we would sneak out and go clubbing with these like, like the older international kid like crew, whatever. And then there was this story where like, oh, someone had like beat up the like French diplomat's kid or whatever. And then so they like got him deported. And you're like, oh my God. And then like, she would joke where she was like, blah, blah, blah. My boyfriend broke up with me. And then she was like, oh, my dad's so scary. He was like, do you want me to take care of it? And she was like, no. And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, dang, I've been hanging out like in the parking lot of a Dairy Queen. Like, who are these people? Yeah.
That is a really dislocating feeling, I would presume.
Definitely. And also like, I think class-wise too, like my parents were both the first in their family to like go to college. My dad grew up in like a very, very, very rural village in like northern China in Shenbei. And, he was like, he didn't see a moving vehicle till he was like 14 years old, whatever, but he was like smarty. And so he tested into like one of the top schools. And like similar with my mom, my grandma was the first to leave her village. She moved to CN to like be in a bigger city. Then we are the first of my whole family to leave the country. And we left when I was 2 years old. And so like my parents are definitely, they're like hustlers, like they both were engineers in China. When they came to Minnesota, they pretty much had to like start over again. My dad got a second PhD because like his PhD from China wasn't recognized. My mom, she was like working like fast food and like hotels and stuff while getting her master's at night at St. Thomas for like computer engineering or something, all while like raising a like 2-3-year-old kid while also learning English at the same time. Like, and now that I'm like a parent too and stuff, I feel like I have a new perspective on kind of like how much they were handling during that time. Yeah, so it's kind of over the course of my childhood that like they kind of slowly got their footing. And then we only ended up back in China because my dad was working at 3M, which is
Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing.
Very good. Very good, Jesse. Wow. Yes, it's famously headquartered in Minnesota, which also fun fact about Minnesota, a lot of headquarters are there. But anyways, all this to say is just like they kind of like very like, like we had just kind of worked to sort of like a solid middle class place. And like, my dad was doing great at 3M, but like they were the ones that assigned us to go back to China again. And so that's how we ended up there. But I think it was a very different, it felt like a very different kind of like upbringing than a lot of my classmates once I was in Shanghai. But even like the typical, in quotes, sort of like expat experience, like you're living in a gated community. You get like the company gives you a driver. Yeah, it was a culture shock in a lot of ways.
Were your parents happy for you to be American? Was that their idea as well? That when you came of age, you'd go to college in the States and be American for the rest of your life?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if that was the specific expectation that I would like be American. It was just the fact that like at that point I was quite American already. Even way more so than my parents cuz I'm the only one other than my younger sister in our entire family history that was like raised in America. I have some cousins now that like live, I think one of them's in Toronto, like one of them went to school like in Ohio for college, but I was the only one that was like raised here. And so that was part of it. I went back to China and my Mandarin's quite good, but I would go back and people would be like, "Oh, you're like a foreigner. Like you're like an American girl that's here." And I'd be like, "What? But no, no." Yeah, I think I just already was. And if like, for college and stuff, I think I thought very briefly about being like, maybe I'll go to like the UK for school, but I ended up just only looking at schools in the States because I think at the time, it's not that I wasn't thoughtful about decisions like that, but I don't know if it ever occurred to me to be like, why am I only thinking about like America for schools? It just was like, oh, that's where I'll go to college there. And like, yeah, it's end of the day, it is like this country is like what I know the most of, and I've been thinking about that a lot recently too, as like I've had friends, especially like parents who are like, I really don't want to raise my kid here. Like it's just, I'm terrified every single day. I'm scared for my kid to go to school. I'm like scared of so much like violence in so many ways. And there's part of me that's like a little jealous to be like, yeah, like maybe I will move back to China. But I was like, I feel kind of like I have to stay here, at least like there's not like really a good imminent future option to leave. And also like if I think about myself as like a contributing like citizen of the world and like community member, there is nowhere else that I know better than here. Like the good and the bad and the ugly. I was like, I feel very connected to like justice movements here. I feel like I really understand the like racial and power and, the like dynamics here way more than like even China, for instance.
When you finished college, did you have to do something to get status in the United States?
No, I actually what's interesting is we became naturalized as citizens the year before we moved back to China. So I became a US citizen when I was like 13, and then when I was 14 I moved back to China.
So your parents were on it.
They were on it. Oh, they are on it. I like only recently, I don't know why, like and I don't know how much there is that I can share to not be incriminating. But I like finally only now like learned about like some of our like immigration stories, like how we even got here or whatever. And it's like looking back, I'm like, dang, they really did that. And like, I'm really proud of them. They're baddies, my parents.
I mean, one of the things that I love Boosters is about is the way that one's status as a worker, one's place in the global economic system supersedes borders.
Definitely. I've always like said whenever we have our Q&As and stuff and they're like, oh, like the fashion and the fun, like whatever. I'm always like, it's a film about global class solidarity and anti-capitalism, which is so Boots. And like, that's what I love about him is like, it's not a gimmick when these themes are in his movies. Cause like he does live that and he does like stand, he walks the walk too. And I think he's so smart in the way that he like makes something about, for instance, like international borderless like class solidarity really, really accessible. Like when you watch a film, there's like so much, there's like surrealism and there's like, it's wild and the fashion and the music and the pace and like all of this stuff. But by the end of it, it feels like a really obvious, you're like, oh, right. Like, of course it's like us against the like 0.0001%, duh. And of course that supersedes borders and culture and like, without giving anything away, like my character integrates so quickly with like the Oakland booster girls because we're like, oh, we like actually really have shared goals, like done.
And who but Boots would make like an insane fantasy sci-fi, crazy nonsense mess that's totally coherent and ultimately culminates in, and I don't think this is an important spoiler, a general strike.
Yeah.
Right? Like the idea that it's all building towards labor solidarity.
Yes, a global general strike. The first time I cried. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it's really special. And also, like even the commentary on mass consumerism and capitalism and stuff, the way that like it's not even just about like the business mogul and the exploitation of like we're going as far back as like the garment workers and like to trace where a thing even comes from up until the point it gets boosted. I feel like he's able to delineate power structures in a way that is like very, very, very easy to understand.
And human in scale. I mean, I think one of the things that I've talked with him about when he's been on the show is I'm a huge fan of his music. And there are so many rappers who are quote unquote revolutionaries. And it can be really thrilling to hear music that's about the kind of trappings of being a revolutionary, the kind of like black beret, black leather jacket stuff, and how bad it is to be a revolutionary or whatever, right? And those often are very like polemical records. They're records about telling you about something, and it's almost always abstract.
Yeah.
Or
it's almost the aesthetic of revolution.
Exactly.
Than it is about like sort of the class unity and the work that goes into.
And human beings. Like the thing that is special about Boots as both a filmmaker and a musician in that sense is that he ultimately is making really human stories about working class people.
Yeah.
That reveal these ideological structures that he builds. It's not about the ideology.
Definitely. And that's part of what I really love about my character too, is like, I don't think she ever self-identifies as a revolutionary. I think she's just like, I want my family and my loved ones to be okay. And we're not okay right now under these working conditions. And like, what do I need to do to improve them? Which at the heart of it is like what being a revolutionary is, of being like, we need to change systems and power struggles. But it's not like when I thought about her and stuff, even when I make like a playlist for each of the characters that I play, just to like help me create the world, but also for practical reasons, like when I'm actually shooting, like you're shooting so out of order, the days are super, super long. You kind of just need a fast way to like get into the world. And for me, it's like really through music and kind of scent too. Like sense of smell has a really strong effect on me.
Tell me about that.
So I have a smell associated with each character. It's usually like a perfume or like I think with one character, it was literally just like Old Spice deodorant.
Do you like go to a smelling place and browse or imagine it in your head? How does it work?
Yeah, I usually hit up like a Sephora and just really do a bunch of smell tests. But with this character, with Jianhu, like it was harder for her because I was like, ideally, I think her scent is actually just like kind of like burning wood chips a little bit, or like the after smell like matches or something. So I got something close, but whatever, it wasn't perfect. But I had her playlist still. And when I first was putting her playlist together, I was like looking up all this revolutionary music. I was like revolutionary music from China or from like other, like I was just like going really deep intellectual in that way. But then I was like, wait, I don't think this is actually even on her consciousness. Like this is me as Poppy interpreting her and interpreting how she moves through the world. But like in her mind, she's, just like a young person in China who like, I was like, oh, I think she's probably just actually into like pop music.
I'm sorry, I want to go back to the scent thing. So once you've picked it out at the Sephora, which by the way, like I've gone into the Sephora, shout out to Old Town Pasadena. It is a sensory pandemonium for me.
Yeah.
I'm gone the second I walk through the door.
Yeah.
I went in there, just wandered in a daze up to the counter and said to the person like, where is him? Nice man to tell me a concealer. I gotta go. Like it was so overwhelming. So you're going into this bananas sensory environment.
Yeah.
And you're sniffing test strips?
Yeah. Well, I feel very at home in a Sephora. I actually feel very at home in a mall in general. And this is throwing it back to the Minnesota of it all, is that you can throw me into any mall, anywhere. I will know how to navigate it. I will feel empowered. I will feel strong. I will feel brave. Yeah, I just like, I lock in. So with the Sephora, you can't smell, even with my powers, you can't smell that many scents without your brain like liquefying.
Right.
And they do have, I don't know if they all have it, but sometimes they'll have like coffee beans so that you can like factory reset your,
Schnoz.
yeah, your olfactory senses. But that doesn't work after a certain point too. So I have to be very strategic about how many scents I'm going to smell because I can't smell that many. So I have to already go in with a plan. And you kind of have to know already, like, am I like going to be smelling much like Joe Malone like scents, in which case like I'm just going to focus there. Is this sort of like, am I doing like fruitier? Am I going over to like the Chloe or like I don't know. I just smell, just it does a lot for my creative process.
When you went into acting, did you think you were going to be a comedy performer?
Definitely not. I didn't think I was going to be a comedy performer until literally the day that I got cast for Sunnyside.
Sunnyside is a sitcom that you were on,
With
Cal Penn sitcom.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, that was my first pilot season out in like, it came out for like a week in LA. And then Allison Jones was the first casting office I went into. Allison Jones, who's, iconic, did the original Office, like.
Past Bullseye guest. Go back and listen if you're listening. Yeah.
I love her. She's my girl. Like she was the first, like, room I went into. And then, yeah, she like found out when I was leaving town, got me to chemistry read an hour before that. And then right when I flew back to New York, they called and said that I like got the job.
And this was a big comedy part. In this show,
yeah,
you and Joel Kim Booster were, this is 8 years ago now, but you were rich first generation Chinese siblings who were kind of very intense and high maintenance.
Yes.
Maylin and Jianhu, they're rich as hell, but they won't actually say where they're from.
Yeah, technically our dad now lives in international waters.
He means we have no knowledge of his current whereabouts.
For the last few weeks, we were all taking a class that was helping us with the test and the paperwork. But it all shut down when somebody bought the building.
Yeah, it's getting turned into one of those shared workspaces. It's like, ew.
Yeah, seems like everything's getting turned into one of those.
No, I mean like you work and share.
And very silly.
Yes.
And it was a show, I'll tell you retrospectively, a show that involved a lot of really talented people. Show did not work for me. However, you and Joel Kim Booster were hilarious in it.
Well, yeah, it also is scrubbed from the web. Like you can't find it anywhere except for a like kind of viral fan-made YouTube montage of only me and Joel scenes. It's like a 20-minute clip of just like
I'd watch it.
Us being sort of like incredibly wealthy bimbo brained twins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's big characters.
Yeah.
Like no question, these are comedy characters. This was not like I just played my intentions and it happened to turn out funny. Like these were comedy characters.
It was. And also because like I've performed my whole life. I started off doing like Chinese dance when I was in Minnesota. I did that for like 9 years. There's a lot of Chinese people in Minnesota. And then I did like a lot of theater in like high school and college. But a lot of it was all very like absurdist or experimental. And like even when I was in New York, it was like I was doing puppetry and etc.
You were kind of on a money track.
Exactly. Yeah, dollar signs for eyes. I truly, and I actually mean this not in like like I'm trying to like be humble, whatever. I really didn't know that I was funny before. And like not in a, like, I know I'm fun. I know I'm fun to be around. I know I'm a really good time, but I didn't think I was like funny, like in a comedian way. Even I think like my humor or whatever isn't like one-liners or like whatever and stuff. So
it's pretty specific.
I guess.
I mean, in terms of comedy performance, it's very sharp.
Oh, thank you.
Like it's not jokes, you're right. But it's comedy choices. It's not just persona.
It's not just vibes, because I feel like that's what it is.
There's a lot of vibes. I'm not denying the vibes.
The vibes are strong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Before I was like, maybe it's like pheromones and vibes or something. I don't know. But like, yeah, like the thing that I did right before Sunnyside, a couple months before that, was like what I thought I'd be doing more of, which was like my first TV job was like a guest spot on New Amsterdam as like a first gen Chinese kid who felt like too much pressure and like attempts suicide. But like survives and like is in the hospital now and ends up, seeing the sort of like hospital psychiatrist and like is talking like, you talk about depression and it's that. And then the next thing that happened is Sunnyside. So yeah. And then after Sunnyside, it was Hacks. So I'm like, oh, I guess like I do comedy now.
You have played characters. You've played a lot of American Chinese immigrant characters, and you've played them on a real continuum of amount of Americanness, amount of Chineseness, and various mixes thereof. Is that something that you are self-conscious about when you're doing the work, that you're thinking about different people's positions?
A little bit, but I think that's something that I'm actually bringing into it. And this is like credit, I think, largely to like my team. And I feel so like supported by them, is that like a lot of the characters that I play aren't necessarily specifically Chinese American. Like the plot or like their own arc doesn't like revolve around identity. It's more so that I'm like, okay, if like you cast me in this role, I am who I am. Also like it's part of my job to make this character make sense to me. And like, how did I get here to where this character is? And I'm like, well, that is just going to involve whatever the backstory is, which is going to involve some degree of like, if I'm in America, then like somewhere down the line we immigrated here. And like maybe that's not relevant to the story, but like for me, it feels important.
And you're revealing in some case some element of your own queerness as well on screen, whether or not it's a character that has a romantic story.
Definitely. I think so. Yeah. And like I feel like in some ways it's like maybe not so like obvious to the eye, but I really feel it. Or like Kiki in Hacks, for instance, is like kind of a girl's girl, like nothing is kind of queer coded about her. But in my mind, I'm like, but I do see it. Like she's a single mom of her kid. We never hear once about her like baby dad. He's just floating around like somewhere, whatever. She's like this like hustler. She like, you don't see her family life, but I was like, she's doing that somehow. And then like cut to now, I'm like, oh, like I'm a single mom. And like I actually do have a great co-parenting situation, but it's like, even like looking at my own life, my like little like village of like besties, there's like a whole community of like aunties and uncles and like an ex turned enemy turned best friend who's now my kid's like godparent involved. And like, so like, I think for me, like it does feel like queerness as a way of like creating family and like moving through life does feel very present throughout.
I love your character on Hacks.
Thank you.
How would you describe her?
I would say she's like, a baddie little mommy, hustler, also loves the mall. This is, let me say this. This is where me and her overlap. We both have mall superpower. And I think we're both like, little mommies. Do what you will with that.
You made a gesture.
Yeah, I did this with my hand. I put it up 2 inches away from my face, and then I moved my neck around back and forth with a
flat hand.
A flat hand, straight flat.
Like a framing,
my head, yeah,
like a framing flat hand.
Yeah, with the kind of a coy, demure eye gaze and a little smile. That's what's happening right now. When I said little mommy, yeah, as a visual for those of you that are listening in the car.
There's something so gleeful about her.
Yes.
Hustling.
Yeah. What I really like about her, especially in the world of Hacks, is that like she's one of the few characters who's actually just really, truly happy with her life. And she is like happy with herself. And there's not like some sort of like silver ladder that she's trying to climb. She doesn't really seek validation from other people because I think she's quite happy with herself. She's like into who she is. I think like someone was worded it recently in a way where they were like, all the characters kind of, their gravitational pull is affected by like every sort of will and whim of like Deborah Vance. And I think Kiki just isn't. I think she's like, I got my bag. Deborah's part of my bag. I got like 3 Rolls Royces out of it, but like I have other hustles too.
I think she's interesting in the context of Las Vegas, where so much of the show takes place. Like the show is about these kind of weird, different forms of show business.
Yeah.
Like the relationship between this pure show business of Las Vegas and the show business of Los Angeles, and like the ways that Deborah Vance, the protagonist, career passes through these worlds.
Yeah.
And Las Vegas is such a particular insane hustle place that is so full of desperation and sadness, but also of, I don't know, like I think Carrot Top is glad that he just works there forever.
Oh, for
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like he doesn't have to go to Duluth to do a weekend, like Duluth is really nice and
Shout out to
everything,
Minnesota
but like
again.
it's a long flight, you know what I mean?
A lovely place.
And I think Kiki is such an expression of the possibility of a insane place like Las Vegas.
The possibility. I was like, yeah, I think like if you were to go into her life more, I was like, I can imagine her being like, like the matriarch in a sort of get all your relatives over to America little ring, There's like a whole economy of like entertainment and business around a Deborah Vance, around like Hollywood, there's like all the different, like the ripple effect of like all the other businesses that are around it. And I just feel like Kiki like navigates it very, very well.
You've been a doula, and doulaing encompasses a lot of different parts of guiding people through the birth and baby experience. But one of those is birthing moves. Do you have any favorite moves?
For giving birth?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now that I've given birth too, I have some personal experience as well. It's just every birth is so different. I started off because I accidentally became an abortion doula because the first kind of film anything I made was a short film about my abortion story. And then I like self-produced a tour, was like, at like reproductive rights conferences and blah, 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 blah. And so people just started reaching out about their own abortions or being like, my partner's about to have an abortion. Like, can you talk to them? Whatever. And then I became a full spectrum doula. And I think in total, I've attended 5 live births. And each of them is so vastly different. Like the first one was like 36 hours in a birthing center. Just me talking her through labor and working through each contraction. And, like one of them was a C-section. One of them, like the labor was really short. We like got to the hospital and then immediately like baby's out now. Like, but I think the theme or like the similar factor among all of it actually is just like ultimately telling people what their options are, which sounds really simple, but I think a lot of people just don't know, and like, especially in America, we are like the medical industrial complex makes it so that like they don't want us to know a lot about our own bodies, or like, you're kind of just like you're at the whim of the doctor when you're at the hospital. You just trust that you're like, I'll be taken care of. But it's not always the case, like C-section spike right before sort of like lunch break or like dinner break or like the end of a night shift or whatever. I think a lot of people just don't even know that they have other options. And so there's like not really like a better or worse birth to have. Like, it's like, if what you really want is a C-section, great. But like, you should know these are other things that you can do, or like, you should know like what your own medical history is, or like, yeah, like, or like what, yeah.
And have someone to communicate to
definitely
medical professionals that's not currently giving birth to something.
Yeah. I think that's the best move is having someone who can like help advocate for you and communicate with medical professionals when you're in labor.
I thought you were just going to say something with a yoga ball or something.
Oh. Totally.
You know what the doula told me that I'll never forget?
What?
Jesse, this is a good time to go get dinner.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I was so grateful to her. I don't know. Am I allowed to eat dinner?
Yeah. You're like, what have I missed?
I'm so hungry. Yeah.
What are the baby
Go
comes?
across the street and get dinner. Don't get in the cafeteria. It's no good. Go across the street and get dinner. Come back in 45 minutes. Nothing will have changed.
We love that.
Our doula brought cookies with our birthing plan.
Oh, what?
Yeah, for the staff.
Wait, but how did she write the whole birthing plan on the cookie?
No. Along with our birthing plan.
Along with, I see.
Together, she presented them 1 and 2.
I thought it was the birthing plan written onto the cookie.
No, because then you eat the cookie
Then
and
you
you don't
eat
have the
the
birthing plan anymore.
Yeah. Well, I immediately was like, and how big is the font on that? And what did she write it with? And was it afterwards? Was it with frosting?
It really has
was
to be the
baked
broadest
in?
outline of the birthing plan.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. I laminated mine because I was like, there's going to be fluids that get on this.
Well, Poppy, congratulations on the movie and all your success. I've enjoyed your work so much, and thanks for coming on Bullseye.
Thanks, Jesse Thorn. I so appreciate being here.